So I was going to ask you if you'd ever heard this phrase before, but I've said it to you 38 times now in kind of the lead up to this. It's a phrase I've been seeing on social media quite a lot. It is a phrase I've been seeing among predominantly, I would presume, Democrats. And it is this. It is, I miss when the news was boring. Now, the whole question I was going to ask you was, have you ever heard that before? But you clearly have. I've ruined that now.
Yes.
Because I can't keep my fucking mouth shut. So, I miss when the news was boring. I absolutely despise the Democrats that are saying that because I have gone into a short little, this took me about 10 minutes of research recently. So there's much I have missed. But I'm going to give you a list of things that have happened since 2001 when the news was boring. October 26, 2001, the House and the Senate passed the Patriot Act. That fun little thing that government agents can surveil you, basically, as long as the government says the two words national security. They can kick in your door, violate any right that you have. That passed 357 to 66 and 98 to 1 in the Senate. The news was boring. But that was 2001. Tensions were high. This is right off the heels of September 11th. I mean, obviously the news was not boring that day, but let's fast forward a little bit. 2005, House votes to renew the Patriot Act. 190 Republicans voted with 199 Democrats in the House to do that, and then 55 Republicans and 34 Democrats voted for it in 2006 in the Senate. News was pretty boring then. Fast forward to 2015. Similar things. Democrats and Republicans join hands, sing Kumbaya. 196 Republicans win 142 Democrats in the House. 67 Republicans 67 senators voted yes. It was a roll call. I couldn't find breakdowns on it. In 2020, the House voted 126 Republicans and 152 Democrats to renew certain sections of it. I believe that was the Freedom Act. The Senate, again, it was a roll call. 80 senators voted yes. 16 voted no. 4 voted 4 did not vote. So while the news was boring in that little 19-year segment, the Democrats and Republicans locked arms to violate our rights. In 2016, April of 2016, the Standing Rock protests happened for the Dakota Access Pipeline. This is under Obama. I don't know if you remember this. This is about the time I really got into politics. This is about the time I really got into politics. For those who don't know or were too young to know, this was a decade ago. A oil company wanted to build a pipeline in Dakota, and it was going to go right over reservation land for Native Americans. Natives stood up. They said, hey, we don't want this in our area. This is going right around our drinking water. These things have a nasty habit of rupturing, spilling oil everywhere. They start protesting. A bunch of people join in. Obama sent in federal agents to tear gas them all, arrest them, hit them with water cannons, attack dogs. News was very boring. Very, very boring.
Very boring. Very boring. Very boring.
Lots of Native Americans getting their rights violated. Surprise, surprise, I believe it was like 2-3 years ago, that pipeline did rupture and spilled a bunch of oil into the Sioux Nation drinking water. Very boring.
Very boring.
While all this was going on, Obama was drone striking the fuck out of anybody who was brown in the Middle East. Including
an American citizen.
Including an American citizen, yes. I actually did not have that written down. When I actually wrote down part of this. So, independent estimates taken together, independent estimates from non-governmental organization New America and the Bureau of Investigative Journalism suggest that civilians made up between 7.27 and 15.47% of deaths to U.S. drone strikes in Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia from 2009 to 2016, with a broadly similar rate in 2017 to 2019. Civilian casualties as a percentage of overall deaths were the highest in Yemen and the lowest in Somalia.
Sounds boring.
Very boring. Very, very boring.
Very boring stuff going on.
Another very boring thing that seemed to slide under the radar with the news was Obama letting the previous presidential administration basically get off scot-free for more or less openly admitting that they tortured people in Guantanamo Bay. Obama said, quote, "We tortured some folks." You know, that's just as if it was an everyday thing. I mean, it's very boring news, very run of the mill. And the last thing I have on this list is the Democrats have not had a fair primary since at least 2004. I don't remember if we went over this in a previous episode or not, but just a quick recap here. 2008, Obama and Hillary are going head to head. More or less, it has been admitted that behind the scenes, Hillary was more or less asked to drop out of the race in favor of Obama, and then she would be given the throne in 2016. So, in 2008, that's what happens. 2012, there's no primary. Obama's the incumbent. 2016, Hillary runs. This little-known senator from Vermont named Bernie Sanders also runs. Gets a lot of grassroots movement. Challenges her for the throne. Turns out, in this very boring news cycle, the news entertainment ecosystem was giving the Clinton side of things the questions to the debates ahead of time, but not giving them to Bernie. A lot of questions about missing votes. A lot of things happened in that. 2016, Hillary wins under some very dubious circumstances, and we all know how that turned out in the general election. 2020, we've talked about before how magically on Super Tuesday, every single moderate drops out the day before and endorses Biden, which they never do. They always say something along the lines of, you know, I vote your conscience, but we need to rally around the party nominee. They did not do that. This time they were like, hey, you should totally vote for Biden on Super Tuesday. And then 2024, Biden possibly as a last fuck you to the Democratic Party, more or less nominates Kamala Harris. No primary there. So this is all going on while, you know, the news was boring. Very boring news.
Yeah.
I have interpreted that, and many of my fellow uber progressives have interpreted that as you miss when the news didn't affect you. You miss when we were throwing America's military might around and it was against brown people in the Middle East, but now that it's Greenlanders and, you know, we're threatening NATO allies, now we don't like it. You know, you miss when it was Obama drone striking children, but when Trump does it in Nigeria, it's suddenly a problem and Congress needs to be the one to okay a war. You miss when Obama invaded Pakistan to get Osama bin Laden without congressional approval, but it was a problem when Trump did the more or less the exact same thing with Maduro. You miss when it was Democrats violating your constitutional rights and tear gassing Native Americans in the Dakotas, but when Trump is doing it with ICE, it's a problem. I think that speaks very much to the state of our country and the political polarization we have, as we're fine when our party is the one stomping on the back of our neck, but when it's the other party, suddenly it's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the little thing called COVID, right? A little boring news there when, you know, it first started under Trump. But then, you know, kind of Democrats got in control, and you know, there's a lot of lockdowns and you know, Democratic leadership telling you to, you know, arresting you for going out on the beach, but then, you know, having meals. Looking at you, Gavin Newsom. Uh,
Nancy Pelosi getting her hair done.
Nancy Pelosi getting her hair done is like, it's the definition of do as I say, not as I do. And people are, and to your point about, people saying they miss when the news is boring, it's like, that's because you only listen to one side.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair.
You were stuck in the echo chamber of, oh well, I'm going to listen to CNN, and they're the news entertainment company that peddles to my political beliefs.
What I want to hear.
Yeah, of course, when your party's in charge, a lot of people don't go out of that echo chamber per se, right? When I was a deep conservative, that's all I watched was Fox News, and whenever Obama was in charge, it was every day the world is ending, right? And I escaped that. I realized, okay, well, at the end of the day, was Obama that bad of a president? He did some shady shit, but no, it was generally peace. It was it was a calmer time.
Peace outside of a certain select few countries in the Middle East and Africa.
Certain few countries, but nobody really talked about that. That's what I'm saying though. Is like, to these young people who are saying that on social media, is like, okay, well, maybe change your news source, right? Maybe try somebody else, see what positive's going on.
Well, also, you're allowed to be critical of your own side. Like, this is something that has irritated me about the Democrats since 2016. And now, again, I wasn't big on politics. I was a young when Obama was president. I mean, I'm part of that generation that grew up with Obama as president, really. Anytime that in 2016 and 2020, it got big in 2020 and 2024. Anytime you criticize the Democrats on the left, whether it be their handling of COVID, their handling of the genocide in Gaza, whether it be, anything, the response you always got, and I was so infuriated by it, is, well, so do you want Trump to win? You're helping the Republicans. Like, okay, well, if me sitting there saying Biden sending unlimited amounts of arms to Israel to go and bomb children is a problem and going to help Republicans, then maybe I want Republicans. Not saying that they're, we'll see maybe what they're going to do. But if your answer to, hey, I'm criticizing you for your handling of something is, well, screw you, you're just helping the other side. Well, maybe I don't want to be on your side anymore. That's why I don't agree with, I don't like when people say I'm a Democrat just because I lean left, because I fucking despise the Democrats. But anytime you criticize them, and I don't know if this is the same on the right. I haven't seen it on the right, but I'm obviously I'm connected on, I'm plugged into outlets across the political spectrum, but not most of it, but a lot of it's on the left. But anytime you criticize them, it was never, okay, well, maybe we can try to, push the party into this direction, or maybe we can try to get a better candidate. It was always, well, you're just helping Trump. You're helping Trump. Like, the problem I have is, we kind of talked about before potentially a doing an episode on a political breakdown of the failings of the Democratic Party in 2016, 2020, 2024, possibly 2028. Maybe that's what this turns into. I haven't kind of decided yet. We're kind of winging this. But the Democrats lost because they could not cater to the progressives and the independents. And I think part of that was the expectation was on the voter to come to them. It was never, we're going to meet you where you're at. It's always, you need, well, Trump bad. Well, the other party, this is the lesser of two evils. Our party's not perfect, but it's the lesser of two evils. Well, so you still want me to vote for evil then? Like, I'd rather just not vote.
Oh. And then you've seen Kamala Harris's campaign kind of like, they tried to pitch to that late in the game before the election. And you could see that in real time because they didn't even know what exactly they were supporting. they were throwing stuff up and realizing that, oh, a lot of people don't actually like that, and then she'd walk comments back and say, oh well, you didn't believe, or you're mistaking what I was saying, and that makes you a racist and this and that. And it's like, clearly everybody could see that you didn't even know what you stood for. We were getting word salads. Anytime you went to go explain yourself and your reasoning, what the hell did she just say?
Well, and that's it. It's not even just her. Like, I don't want to put this just on her. It's
Yeah.
the Democratic Party has had an identity crisis since 2016, where they've just been anti-Trump. It's wherever Trump stands on an issue, they're the opposite no matter what. And I think when you're
And if you question it, you're a racist or a bigot.
well, or not even that. It's just like I said, it was constantly. Well, what about Trump? Well, you're just helping Trump. Like, your criticisms of us are helping Trump, and it's like, okay, well, but these are valid criticisms. When there was talk of Josh Shapiro potentially being her running mate, a lot of people were. This is obviously, during the genocide in Gaza, and Josh Shapiro was signing bombs that were going to go and get dropped on Gaza, and progressives pointed that out and were like, hey, that's not great. I don't want a political leader signing bombs that are going to hit a civilian area.
Yeah.
And people were like, basically, well, what about Trump? And it's like, well, I can have thoughts about Trump and I can also have thoughts about you. Why does it have to be one or the other? Why do I have to sit there and support you in wrongdoing and hate Trump in wrongdoing? Why can't I not have yeah, hey, I think this is wrong on both sides. That was another big thing. One of the big things was, I remember during that time, a big reason Kamala lost the progressive left was, A, she's a terrible candidate, but B, all the shit going on in Israel and Gaza. So Kamala actually lost, I believe it was Dearborn, Michigan. She lost that, not to Trump, to Jill Stein, because Jill Stein was on the ground talking to Muslims, talking to Arab community members. She was openly against what was going on in Gaza. And people hated Jill Stein for that because it was making Kamala look bad. Well, then Kamala needs to meet the voter where they're at. Or you need to find a candidate that will meet the voter where they're at. As Jill Stein did. Jill Stein met the voters where they were at. The majority of Americans were not happy with what was going on in Gaza. So she met the voters where they were at. Kamala refused to do that, and if you criticized Kamala on that, or the Democrats in general, because the Democrats and Republicans are in Israel's pockets, let's be real.
Yes, let's be real.
You're suddenly helping the other side. Well, by voting for Jill Stein, an argument I heard was, well, if you think Kamala's bad, what do you think Trump's going to do? So what? I'm supposed to vote for the person that's going to kill 100 people instead of the person that's going to kill 150?
Vote for the lesser of two evils?
Yeah, I mean, ask the 100 people in that scenario how much they liked my vote. It's you're still voting for people who are going to endorse bloodshed and stuff. So, the whole point is, I think the average Democratic voter, not necessarily the progressive left voter, this is more the moderate voter, the vote blue no matter who crowd. I like to call them, and a lot of the progressives what's that?
No, the vote blue no matter who. That.
Well, the progressive left likes to call them blue MAGA, blue MAGA, however you pronounce that, because they're just a cult on the other side of the coin. They will, if Donald Trump left the Republican Party tomorrow and ran as a Democrat, they would endorse him.
Yeah.
They are, I think, they are part of the bigger problem, and I think why Democrats have not really won an election. I mean, sure, they won in 2020, but that was more, I think, a vote against Trump than a vote for Democrats. I think they're going to be the problem for Democrats in 2028 as well, because they refuse to acknowledge that a large portion of their voting bloc is not willing to support these continued status quo policies, is not okay with when the news was boring, was not okay with all these terrible things that happened under Democrats that Democrats were fine with. But when Trump does the exact same thing, suddenly it's bad. And I don't think they're willing to ever meet them halfway or go to where their voter is. And I think for
Yeah.
Republicans, that's a good thing. I think for JD Vance, that's going to be a good thing. I think for Democrats, it's going to be absolutely terrible for them.
Oh, yeah, because like the problem is, I don't think there's individualism in the Democratic Party anymore. More so than the Republican Party. You see with Republican parties, some people are checking Trump. Uh, it's rare, but you do see it in the Republican Party, and hell, they're willing to send a speaker of the House vote to like what 14 different attempts just because they don't like somebody.
I forget the number, but it was a record amount.
Yeah, there is some individualism left in the Republican Party. Now, do I think that was a dumb antic? Yes, that was the Marjorie Taylor Greene stuff, and very embarrassing for the Republican Party. But you won't see that within the Democratic Party. It's all kind of, no offense, but it's like a hive mind mentality. All for one and one for all. It's very good for like trying to put votes through, but at the same time, you're not allowed to have a difference of opinion.
Well, I think we talked about this recently, but that Daniel Sloss bit that I sent you, where he's like, it's so much easier to be a Republican with a different, where you don't agree on everything. They'll be like, oh, are you anti-immigrant? Yeah, I'm anti-illegal immigrant. Are you pro-gun? Yeah, I'm pro-gun. Do you hate the gays? No, I don't really have a problem with the gays. Ah, that's fine. You'll get there. And then he's like, well, for the Democrats, it's like, are you pro-immigration? Yeah, I'm pro-immigration. Are you pro-vaccine? Yeah, I'm pro-vaccine. Are you pro-LGBTQ? Yeah, I'm pro-LGBTQ. Are you a vegan? No, I like meat. You fucking fascist. And it's like it's like that's what it feels like to be on the left. Is like anytime you criticize the Democrats, anytime you begin to stray off the path, even a little bit, even on one minor issue, you're helping Republicans. You're a terrible person. You're a fucking fascist. And they are so willing, the Democratic Party, Blue MAGA, to stand their own people up against a wall and just fucking let them have it. Now, with that being said, on the flip side, progressives refuse to fucking waver in their beliefs at all, which, admirable when you're talking about certain things. But, they are also... I don't know if some of it's an act for some people online. I don't know if some of it is just an attempt to get views or whatever. But have you ever watched like Chris Valenti?
No.
So he was this content creator on TikTok, and he made a name for himself doing history videos. And he did like these funny little history videos where he would talk about. Typically, it was about United States military, but not always. And it was about like amazing things that had happened, or like times that like last stands were made or what have you. He calls himself a democratic socialist. I don't know what's in his heart. I don't, for all I know, he's a full-blown fucking fascist. I don't know. I believe it was around the time that was it Hurricane Helene wiped out a bunch of shit on the East Coast, and there was a bunch of like conservative towns that got really fucked up by it.
No, North Carolina there?
Yeah, in the Carolinas and shit. And he basically came out around that time and was like, hey, you guys voted against climate change bills. You guys voted against, FEMA funding. You guys voted against all this shit. Good luck. Figure it out. You guys love individualism. The whole core of the Republican Party is being, individualism's great. Well, good luck. How's that working out for you now? And some people rightfully called him out. Were like, because he was much more distasteful than that. And people were like, hey, that's kind of fucked up. Maybe stick to your history videos. People have died. There's communities that are destroyed. And he doubled down and was basically like, look, you voted against all this shit that we wanted to pass to help you. If you got to die for it, so be it. And it was like, okay, my guy. And since then, he's gone off the fucking deep end. He's now talking about, I think one of the last videos I saw that popped up on my TikTok, he was saying, when Democrats retake power, and the progressives get in charge, we're going to fucking arrest every Republican in the country and send them to fucking camps and shit. And it's like, all right, you're not helping the fucking case either.
You can totally double down.
You are really causing some fucking problems. So I think you've got the crazies on the far left. You've got blue MAGA on the moderate left. And I feel like everybody else in between is kind of being pulled on both sides because it's an all or nothing mentality. You have to support us no matter what. I do not think the Democrats are going to do well in 2028. Regardless of what happens under the Trump administration. I think
they still don't have an image.
No,
What does the Democratic Party stand for besides anti-Trump? That's all they've since 2016. That was the talking point of the Democratic Party. It still is a decade later, anti-Trump.
Well, and they shoot themselves in the foot. I mean, when you look at what's happening, you had listen, I'm progressive left. Objectively speaking, while I don't agree with the rationale for doing it, nabbing Maduro was a good thing. It was a net positive for everybody involved. When you look at the anti-immigration stuff that's going on, I don't agree with how it's being done. I think that absolutely needs reformed. We've talked about that, how I do not think they need to be going through fucking neighborhoods and profiling, and they should stick to what they were doing in the beginning, capturing rapists and shit. But, I don't think they should be shooting fucking civilians in the street. But when they are going after like pedophiles and rapists and murderers and drug dealers and stuff, you have people on the left who are like protesting it. You have people on the left who were like in favor, who would rather Maduro have stayed in power than Donald Trump get a win. Because they are so anti-Trump. Whatever Trump does, it can't be good. We've got to be against it. On both the progressive left, the far progressive left, and on the moderate left. They are so anti-Trump, it's all they know.
Yeah. One that speaks to Donald Trump, he's obviously been in your mind for the past decade, so who's winning?
Right.
We've seen what happens when democratic leadership, incompetent democratic leadership, tries to be too progressive in a sense with the Biden administration.
Well, I think with the Biden administration, it was moderates portraying progressives. They were trying to placate them and get them under heel.
Yeah. And obviously completely pissed off the American people. I mean, I know Trump won the popular vote. Well, he won the majority vote, per se. That was the first Republican to do that in 2 decades. Clearly, you got it wrong. Yeah. And if for that to happen the first time in 2 decades, you cannot say that. I know what they want to blame, Americans are racist and this and that. And again, still working on the wrong imaging, clearly didn't learn. But at the end of the day, it's clear that, you had 4 years and somehow you made it progressively worse year after year after year.
I think part of that is
because you were trying to placate to whoever, to make whomever happy. At the end of the day, they weren't typically Democrats have always been the party of the people. What's best for the working man, the working class, yes. And still to this day, what is their imaging to the middle class? Well, Donald Trump's still out there selling it. We're not seeing the results yet. I know it's only been a year, but like the imaging is still there of, hey, I'm trying to do this for at home. I'm trying to rebuild economically. I'm trying to do all these things for you on the world stage and this and that. He might not be necessarily doesn't have a very good PR team, clearly.
Clearly.
But the imaging, the messaging is still there, though. What are the Democrats saying? what has been their counter proposal to bringing back American jobs?
Well,
Nothing.
well, I think part of the problem for the
It's still
Democrats,
anti-Trump.
I think part of the problem for Democrats in under Biden was that it was still Trump. Like it wasn't so much, hey, we're going to do some progressive things. We're going to do some things that are good for the American worker. We're going to do some things about immigration. It was more, hey, we're setting up for we're stopping Trump. We're undoing the things Trump
Yeah.
did. We are focusing on prosecuting Trump and anybody who was in his orbit. And, you saw with the Jack Smith and all that stuff. It was like, even once they got the reins of power, he was still forefront in their mind. Stopping him in 2024 was the biggest thing that they could think of. And the progressive things they did attempt were A, piecemeal things, but B, they were just talking points for the conservatives to rally them. It went from, and part of that is from the Democratic voter base. I mean, like, look at COVID. When you brought that up, it was, we couldn't have a nuanced conversation during COVID about, hey, in rural areas or small towns or whatever, do we need mask mandates? Do we need people to get vaccinated? This, that, and the other. It was, hey, you either get every fucking shot and you stay 6 feet away from everybody and triple, quadruple mask, or you want grandmas to die. And it's like, well, wait a minute. There was a lack of nuance. I think Democrats just, once they got the reins of power, it was almost like one of those things, when there's like, you've seen it in movies and stuff, the bad guy or the good guy's trying to do something and they finally get there and it's like, oh, I didn't think I'd make it this far. Well, now what?
I didn't think I'd get this far.
Yeah, it's like, well, I wasn't prepared to I didn't think I'd actually win. Well, shit, now what do I do?
Voted for me?
Yeah, now what do I do? I wasn't prepared for this. So I think a 20 plus, like I said, I think Biden was more a reflection of people's opinion on Trump than it was a reflection of, people supporting Biden. I don't think. I think the hatred for Trump was enough to kind of unify for the briefest of moments moderates and progressives and get them on the same team for just long enough to get Trump out. And then the moderates kind of took back over and were like, oh, yeah, wait a minute. No, we're establishment Democrats at the end of the day. We got an establishment Democrat.
Yeah. And I mean, that goes to what you mentioned earlier. Is that going to work in 2028?
I don't
I mean,
think it
the
will.
only reason why they might win the midterms this year is because Trump has done enough
To piss them off.
to damage the Republican Party so much that a lot of even Republicans are kind of like, hey, we really doing this with ICE? How far are we willing to go here? What are we doing? And so I think, sure, they're going to win 2026 midterms, hypothetically. I wouldn't chalk that up to a win.
No.
In imaging, right? Trump clearly is doing that to himself. So again, they're going to do the same thing they did in 2018. And in those midterms is, well, we're anti-Trump. We won with the anti-Trump messaging, and we're going to continue this to 2028. Guys, Donald Trump isn't running in 2028.
That same
JD Vance
messaging
probably is.
That same messaging is not going to work with JD Vance.
It's not going to work with a JD Vance Marco Rubio combo. It's not. The guys are younger. They can articulate their arguments. It's a little better than I'm the greatest. You're always winning.
Ramble on stage for 45 minutes and no one knows what the point of the speech was.
Yeah, by the end they're just stand up and clap. Just shut up. Just stand up and clap.
Well, and this is the problem I think the Democrats had too, was look at how many easy wins they gave Trump. I mean, at the end of the day, look, like one of the big ones, immigration.
Yeah.
Under Biden, yeah, sure, some people were deported, but there was such a lack of effort to do it because they were afraid of because of this fragile alliance that the Democrats had between progressives and moderates, right? And you had
Yeah.
and to be fair, you genuinely have people on the left that are pro open borders that think there shouldn't be borders, we shouldn't have, a set number on immigration stuff. You can feel how you feel about that one way or the other. And you have people on the left who believe that we should have borders and we should secure them and stuff. But they were so afraid of alienating either side that they were just like, it was like they were paralyzed with fear of doing anything.
Oh,
So
well,
a
but
lot
yeah,
of people came across the fucking border. Kamala being the border czar, she did a whole lot. And
yeah,
then it gave Trump an easy win to go, hey, look, for 4 years, they haven't done shit with the border. For 4 years, Kamala
well,
didn't do a damn thing. And now you have illegals all throughout the country doing stuff. And then even now, when they're not in power, look at what's happening in Minnesota under Tim Walz. You see all this. Don't get the right's playing it up. There have been efforts under Tim Walz's administration in Minnesota that aren't being talked about enough, that he has tried to go after some of this. But even still, they're now like, because Trump's focused on it, well, we've got to support the Somalis that are stealing taxpayer dollars rather than let Trump have a win. They're still
yeah.
more focused on being anti-Trump than being like, yeah, guys, okay, some people have done some shit. We have been trying to work on it. Yes, some of them are Somalian, But even in Tim Walz's speech, he was like, well, think about the white Americans in corporate America that are stealing taxpayer dollars. It's like, okay, that's not the point of the conversation, though. Now you're just
That's not the point.
you're shifting it just to because you don't want to offend people. Instead of
Yeah.
being like, yeah, these leering centers, they need to get the fuck out, and I'm willing to work with the Trump administration to get them out.
And to your point, talking about immigration, you and I talked about it earlier this week. We both seen videos about how, during the Obama administration, they were talking up ICE. They gave, what was it, Tom Holland?
Yeah,
Uh,
he Obama
Presidential
gave
Medal of Freedom.
gave him a medal.
I think it was freedom. Yeah. Uh, I think it was like for the first 8 months of this year, we still didn't, when Trump was talking about deportations and ICE was in the news, we still weren't deporting as many people per month as we did under the Obama administration. So why are we freaking the hell out now?
Well, and to that
Right?
point,
When Obama was deporting more people per month and during his administration than Trump did for the first like I think not the first 8 months combined, but monthly, we still hadn't reached that Obama number per month. And it's like, why is this such a hot topic now when CNN was doing pieces on ICE and how they're protecting us, and Obama's giving Presidential Medal of Freedoms for protecting our borders? What the hell is going on?
well, and yeah, I mean, what brought that up was I saw a video. It was a clip from I think it was like 2016 under Obama, where he was it was a CNN piece where they had like rode along with ICE during operations in Chicago. And what did you see? You saw guys in tactical vests with AR-15s getting out
Hmm.
of vans and SUVs and stuff and going in, executing warrants to arrest dangerous illegal drug dealers or whoever. And in some cases, there was one I saw that they got it wrong. They got the wrong guy. He got arrested or he got detained, put in the back of a car until they figured out who he was. And then they basically dropped him off on the side of the fucking road and went to go get the right guy. And it's like, this stuff's
Yeah.
been going on. And while the news was boring,
While the news was boring, and
but it
I'm
wasn't,
pretty
it
sure,
wasn't Trump
the
doing it.
same people who could have watched that piece, a decade ago, were just like, wow, they're doing us such a great service and good for them. And Obama likes them, and these guys are heroes. Here we are a decade later, and now it's evil.
Well,
We're
and
protesting against it. I sure some things are different, maybe some tactics are different, but at the end of the day, they're kind of doing the same damn thing they were a decade ago when we were giving them Presidential Medal of Freedoms.
I think part of it also goes to the world we live in where everything is so polarized. When I said it to you before, if in a parallel universe, Kamala Harris had won the 2024 election, and she had done the exact same thing to nab Maduro that Trump did, we would have the CNN and all the left-leaning news entertainment networks would have been talking about how strong and decisive a leader she is.
Would have
And
never been done under a male president. This is females in action.
yeah, I mean more or less. And
Yeah,
on the flip
you know the
side,
talking points.
you would have had Republicans talking about how dangerous this was and she didn't get congressional approval and stuff, you know. But I think like you wouldn't if Renee Good had been shot under a Kamala Harris ice, you know, we would have the left would have been talking about, well, it's a tragedy, but you know, she was obstructing justice and you know, she should have just listened to the officer and stuff. It's like but again, because it's under Trump, now it's a well, this is the Gestapo. This is the Trump secret police that everyone knows about. So I don't know how they're secret. The one thing I will say that I do kind of side with them with. Did you see? I don't know his name off the top of my head. He's some ICE officer. Did you see the picture of him walking in Minneapolis with a trench coat and do you know anything about what I'm talking about right now?
I've heard of it.
I will have to find it to you and send you the video. It was some fucking like photo op they were doing, I think. They had a bunch of ICE officers around, and it was this guy. If you had taken this picture in black and white of just him, he looks like a fucking SS guy. Let me see if I can find this real quick for you, because ICE.
Again, like I said, the imaging, right? It's clearly the Trump administration isn't helping themselves. These guys seem hell-bent on photo ops for some reason. They're not in the best optics sometimes. It's not helping them out. But at the same time, you have these news entertainment companies like CNN, literally a decade later, maybe a little over a decade later, taking a whole different tune to it, putting it in a completely different light. I mean, okay, yeah, yeah.
I just said it to you. So that's a black and white version. This guy, if you told me that was out of 1943 Germany, I would believe you.
Well, why is that?
That is
Why would they think that's a good idea?
This is Greg Bovino, head of ICE.
Okay,
Again with the Trump administration's messaging.
Guys, we might have some issues here with these.
For anybody listening, look up Greg Bovino trench coat, and you will see what I'm talking about. The man looks like he is straight out of 1939 Germany.
Okay, guys, we should really. Who's in charge of this PR team? Somebody should really get it.
Not anybody intelligent. I will tell you that. Part of me wonders if stuff like that is just to troll the left. You know how the right has really leaned into this like trolling the left thing. I'm not saying that's what this was, but then you see people freaking out online and they're going, "Oh my God, it's the Gestapo! It's Trump's secret police force!" And it's like, meanwhile, the average moderate independent is going, "No, it's just ICE doing ICE things." Like, yeah, it looks bad, but I mean, at the end of the day. Well, I mean, I've said it before. I don't agree with, them grabbing the little fucking abuela down the road who's been here for 30 years and hasn't hurt anybody. I think they should go back to what they were doing in the beginning, arresting the terrible people. But logically speaking, I mean, they're still technically doing their job when they arrest that abuela. I may not agree with it morally, but legally it's...
But now we have protesters storming churches. We have protesters attacking ICE or protesting ICE. Following them around, kind of getting in their way, attacking them, and it's just like, where has the Democratic Party gone over the past 10 years? What's changed within the Democratic Party that 10, 11 years ago we were doing all these things that I mentioned earlier, and here we are to this day storming churches, protesting ICE. We're attacking ICE officers, we're ramming their vehicles, we're doing this and that. What is going on within the Democratic Party?
I genuinely wonder. I know the right says it as like a troll, but I mean, I think we said this in a previous episode. I wonder if like in the future there's going to be like a chapter in psychology textbooks about Trump
Yes,
derangement syndrome and like mass
I think
hysteria.
it's I think it's true. I think there is a Trump derangement syndrome, and it's causing a mass hysteria, and it's just,
I
unfortunately, these poor souls are reading the news and there's the CNN, and they're seeing something extremely bad happening about, that Trump's doing, and they're freaking out and they're having anxiety and all these other things. It's like, maybe put your phone down,
Yeah, I don't even think
maybe
it's
breathe a little
I
bit.
don't even think it's just
Uh,
the news entertainment ecosystem. I think it's also just like, I was watching a clip recently. I don't know when it was from. I don't know, it may have been recent, it may have been a little older. I think it was on fuck, what's his name? The guy, oh, it's going to why is can I not think of his name right now? The angry guy on the left that everyone hates that fuck, I can't think of his name. He's one of the late night talk show guys. The older guy.
oh, Jimmy Kimball.
No, 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 no.
No.
Older guy. Uh, Let me see if I can think of his name real quick. And it had Van Jones on it. I think he's the CNN contributor.
Oh,
Uh, I'm not going to be able to find it. I don't know why the guy's name is escaping me right now. I'm going to think about it as soon as I hit the end record button, and I'm going to feel like a complete idiot.
are you talking like a Larry King?
Larry King. That's it. That's it. That's his name. He was
Yeah.
on. It was a Larry King clip, and it had Van Jones on it. Sorry, we just wasted 18 minutes while my brain shut down. But Van Jones was on it, and he was talking about social media, and he had mentioned the echo chambers. I'm paraphrasing here, but the echo chambers that are built for us in some cases. He said, if you go online and buy a yoga mat, suddenly the algorithm is like, oh, you're a leftist, and I need to start feeding you leftist content. If you go online and look up your neighbor goes online and looks up a pickup truck, well, they're a conservative, and now we got to start feeding them conservative content. And
That's a good point.
it's like he said, you can put your phones next to each other and get different spins on the same topics, basically, not even from the news entertainment ecosystem, but just from the average TikToker or the average person on YouTube or whatever. And I think that plays a big part of this too, because now we are sensationalizing stuff. Look at what's going on in Minneapolis. If you just type in Minnesota in your TikTok search, it's going to be full of fucking, depending on what echo chamber you are in that has been built for you, you're either going to get TikToks of the protests and how there's heroes, standing up to a fascist regime, or you're going to get that there's insurrectionists trying to stop law enforcement from enforcing the laws, when it's much more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
I I
Do,
I,
do you
I think that plays
do you
into
think
all
it's
this.
the algorithm? Do you think it's just because we have so many algorithms produced by so many different sources that, like you said, there is this echo chamber framed for us, and we get so consumed within that echo chamber that it's literally just, maybe it's building some kind of mental anxiety, like, and
To an extent, yeah. I mean,
when you're not in power, you're just getting, when your party's not in power and you follow these sources and stuff, it's just feeding you the algorithm of negativity.
well, negativity gets interaction.
Yeah.
I mean, you
And
you engage more with it than the stuff you agree with.
yeah.
I mean,
And
as
you're
an
getting that from
example,
Facebook, you're getting that from X, you're getting that from
TikTok.
TikTok, you're getting that from your Google News or whatever. You're just being saturated with it, and for those people who don't have the ability to disconnect from that and or seek other sources of information, I can see how that, maybe one day in the future, like you said, maybe there will be a Trump derangement syndrome, and maybe we'll have more information of like, hey, no, this is like a massive like
Propaganda, like
hate. case example of bad algorithm
Well, I don't even
that
think
affected a large population and caused some sort of mass hysteria.
like Trump derangement syndrome is like, I think, the more colloquial term of it, but I mean
Yeah,
it affects both sides, because think about it. Think about everybody knows some fucking older white person who thinks Joe Biden was a fucking communist.
yeah,
It's like
agreed,
they were
agreed, 100%.
worried that Kamala Harris was going to, put communism in America, when realistically, actual communists hate the Democrats. I mean, let's be honest. But like when you look at it, it's like it was on both sides. Like if you talk to people on the left, Trump's a fascist and ICE is the Gestapo. If you talk to people on the right, Biden and Harris were communists who wanted to, force you into gulags and everything. And it's like, well, that wasn't happening either. I mean, let's be real; they were
Well,
fucking
well.
useless. It's like the Trump derangement syndrome. I think is the term people know more. But
Yeah,
I think there's been like a mass hysteria on both sides. I so
true, but I would argue that you don't see bands of Republican protesters ramming their cars into ICE vehicles.
Listen, I don't wanna harp on the same thing that the Democrats have harped on for years now, but the fucking Capitol got stormed. Police officers were assaulted by the Law and Order crowd, and senators had to hide in the bomb shelter.
Completely fair, completely fair. But
I mean, Michigan, same thing. They stormed. There was those attempted
okay,
kidnappings on Gretchen Whitmer.
okay. Well, I mean, look at what was it, Kentucky or Tennessee, when people stormed the Capitol there. I believe it was Democrats stormed the Capitol there.
I would have to look into that. I'm actually not familiar with that one, and that's not a me dodging the question. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm
Yeah,
just
I'm
not
just
familiar.
saying, the difference between state and
Listen. One that I'm
state
familiar with
capital
is the
versus
one that I'm familiar with is people harassing ICE all day. It's
yeah,
happening on both sides.
true. Yeah, but I mean, Black Lives Matter protests.
Yeah, no, that was a good one. I mean,
Uh,
what to your point
you know,
earlier about COVID, when we weren't allowed
I
to
don't.
go see our dying grandmothers, we were suddenly allowed to protest in the streets, and Fauci and the
We were allowed
CDC.
to destroy entire fucking cities.
Well, did you remember when Fauci and the CDC were like spinning why you couldn't like have dinner outside at a restaurant with your family, but thousands of people in a protest was actually okay?
Yeah, somehow okay.
So, well, the risk of contagion is much lower in these super high density things where people are screaming out of their mouths, but it I don't know. Again, I think that I don't know. This wasn't really a dissection of the Democrats' failures. This has kind of been more of a critique of the Democrats in general. We'll need to do an actual critique of, or an actual autopsy of 2024 for the Democrats. We need to do
Yeah,
a,
yeah,
of the failures of the Republicans too. I think this is more turned into therapy for me of criticizing the Democrats. And
yeah.
while the average Democratic voter was perfectly happy while terrible things were happening around the world when Democrats were in power, and the news was quote unquote boring,
Boring.
they were perfectly fine with, up to 15.47% of deaths in U.S. drone strikes being civilians. When Trump does it in Nigeria, it's suddenly a bad thing. Suddenly the news isn't boring now. Suddenly it's a problem. And that's not to say Trump is good or Trump has done things right. I have had many criticisms about Trump, as if you've listened to this before, you have heard, and you will continue hearing. But I think it's important that we also criticize our own side and we hold them accountable. We should not be perfectly fine with our side doing terrible things, but as soon as the other side gets in power, those same terrible things that they do, i.e., ICE, and for example, suddenly it's fascism and it's dictators and it's secret police.
You know, I'm gonna throw my new exit one-liner at you. Ready? Maybe it's my sign-off.
I'm
Remember,
excited for this.
remember, people, change your algorithm. Escape the
Oh,
echo chamber.
okay. Well, you had me in the first half, and then it got corny again.
Oh, come on! No, we're gonna work on it.
You need to work on it. Mine's
We're
just
gonna
gonna be
we're gonna we're gonna tweak it.
we'll sit down. We'll have a little powwow. We'll brainstorm. We'll figure something out. Mine's just gonna be okay. Bye.